Blazing Saddle without the volume up is okay for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
If they can't hear all that nasty racist stuff, it's okay.
Faith, firearms, and freedom. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I am your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 317. Thank you so much for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week. Glad to have you here. For those of you watching on YouTube, welcome aboard. Thank you for your support. This week is our Reformation Gun Club Online Hangout for June 2022. And for those of you who are new and don't know what that means, or listening to the audio version, basically what this means is that we're going to be joined, hopefully, by members of the cast and members of the Reformation Gun Club, who are our supporters, the people who make this show possible. People like Catherine from Casper, Wyoming, Curtis from Junction City, Kansas, Dan from Enumclaw, Washington, who is a regular on these hangouts and hopefully will join us tonight. Brad from Hartford, Wisconsin. The disreputable Bartlett, I don't know why he is so disreputable, but he is, and we are proud to have him as a supporter. Mark from St. Paul, Minnesota. Dallas from Severance, Colorado, and Kenneth from Sugar Land, Texas. Thank you all so much for your support in these trying Biden economic times. Folks, Armed Lutheran Radio is listener funded. What that means is you're not going to hear any advertising. We don't have any sponsors. It means that we are supported. We are financially supported by the good people who are members of the Reformation Gun Club, people like those that I mentioned earlier, and some of whom you will meet tonight, I hope. So this little plug for the Gun Club is as much of an advertisement as you're going to hear. If you would like to join them, if you would like to be a part of next month's Hangout, please check out the link in the show notes. Go to armedlutheran.us/gun club and find out all the details there. All right, let's get to our guests. I know, as I mentioned, Dan would be here. I knew he would be here tonight. Dan never lets me down. Well, there we go.
Hey.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Better than I deserve.
Aren't we all?
Well, some more than others. So how has your week been? Oh, hey, we got more folks showing up.
Oh, more folks.
More folks. William, who missed our last one because I was remiss in sending out invitations by email. Here we go. There he is.
There he is.
How are you, sir?
Gentlemen, good evening.
Good
well, thanks. How about yourselves? Good to be seen.
We are doing well. And sorry you missed last month. And thank you for kind of pointing out that I should have sent an email to everybody instead of just assuming that everyone would see the announcement on Facebook. So
yeah, that's all right. This was much more evidence, so that worked out well.
Good. See, folks, I rely on the members to keep me straight at times too. So I try to get. I had an email list set up, and I've used it, and I forgot to do it last month, and I don't know why I didn't do it previously. So that's going to be standard operating procedure going forward, because we've had, back when we were talking about everybody getting off of social media, we had a bunch of members who were talking about, hey, I don't use Facebook all that much anymore. And so we switched over to MeWe, which some people, very like a small percentage of our supporters actually use as well. So there's still a handful of the great unwashed who are out there who don't Just a little joke. But you're right. I need to make better use of our mailing list. And so going forward, thanks to you, William, I will do that. William, you were the one who was always chiming in previous meetings, who was in Scotland. Is that right? Or is that
in Scotland? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, and I apologize. My internet is very slow here, so I'm actually using the hotspot on my phone. So if it cuts out a little bit, I apologize in advance. But such is life. Yeah. So my family and I, we've got an interesting lifestyle. We do a lot of travel. We've cut back since COVID and beyond. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be, next week we're going to be in Massachusetts. The week after that, we'll be in Norway for a couple of weeks. And then we fly right back, and we'll be back to where we have resettled in Northwest Arkansas. Tonight, I'm calling you from South Carolina. Long story short, we're house sitting for some friends of my wife's uncle.
Okay.
So we're all over.
I started to say,
we're going to be on. Go ahead.
I want the full explanation, or as full as is possible. I want to understand this traveling lifestyle, because it sounds kind of cool, especially the Scotland and Norway part. So give us kind of the shorthand answer as to how it is you managed to go to all these cool places. Aside, obviously, South Carolina, you just explained your house sitting. I don't know how cool South Carolina is, being from North Carolina. I have my own opinions.
If it was daylight out, I could show you the dock and the lake from the view from this house. This is a fantastic location. But aside from that, long story short, we had a lot of death in our friends and family circle back in 2015. And around that same time, my in-laws, who were approaching retirement age and had done very well for themselves with a CPA firm, they had just randomly announced, now that we're getting up there in age, we kind of think we'd like to be done with international travel. They haven't been, but that was a fleeting thought that they had for a time. And we started thinking realistically, hey, if we're privileged enough to make it to retirement, and Lord willing, that'll happen, but anything can happen between now and then, a pandemic. And we may not even make it there. What do we want to see the world. We want to see God's creation. We want to see all the different ways that people live and have dealt with life in their neck of the woods, in their spot in the globe, literally. What if we never get there? What if we get there and we're too tired, or we're too ill, or we didn't save for retirement? So all of this was surrounding my mom getting lung cancer and dying a year and a half later. And my dad had already been dead for a decade at that point. And we had a dear family friend get sick, all these things happening. And so we said, you know what, let's just quit life and let's go take our 3 children and go around the world. And so that's exactly what we did. And so we rented out our house in the Bay Area. And that largely became our budget as we traveled. We purchased about the first 6 months of planes and train tickets, and had our first 6 months pretty firmly planned out. And then we ended up using a website based in the UK called Trusted House Sitters. I don't know if you need to delete that for a plug or whatever, but anyway, they arrange for people who have pets and are traveling, and they want someone who's trusted to come and watch over their beloved pets and their property. Right. No cash changes hands. And when you can get a house sit somewhere, you can go and stay at their place for however long they're going to be gone. You have some responsibilities, but you don't have to pay for rent. And so that really helped us to stretch our dollar quite a bit. So we were able to do that in Australia. And we knew some folks in New Zealand. We hit 20 countries on our first year. And so that was, we did house sits in South Africa. We did house sits in France. We watched 80 animals at this beautiful farm in rural Normandy, France. We went back 3 years later and watched 160 animals at the same farm.
Wow.
We've done house sits all over the UK, in Scotland, in Ireland, in London. We've done house sits in Finland and in Sweden. we've just been all over. It's been pretty fantastic.
That is amazing. I've seen, their YouTube channels of guys who, or families who just sort of pick up everything and decide we're going to all live in an RV for the rest of our life and we're going to go see stuff. And they take the kids and they sell the house and they hit the road and they go all over. And I'm always amazed by the people who are able to kind of make that leap and say, all right, we're going to make this work. And because once you've sold the house and you're living in the RV, you're kind of stuck. And so
yeah, you're committed at that point.
Committed at that point. So your sounds even, well, you still have the tie to the place in the Bay Area. So if everything goes,
no, we actually halfway through that first year, we said, hey, we like what we're doing. Let's sell the house so we can continue doing some of this.
Well, okay.
And so we actually,
you cut our
realtor, we did. Yeah, our realtor earned his commission because he arranged with our renters to come over and clear out the garage, which had our stuff stored there. And really, with FaceTime and Skype, he really pared down our property and put what we wanted to keep for the long term in a U-Haul, like a U-Haul storage bin. And all the rest of it, he either kept or sold or did whatever he wanted to do with, and sold our house. He had to ship our paperwork to the embassy in Sweden. And so it was the third country in the process of selling the house that we went to. And so he shipped our final signing paperwork to Sweden. We signed our paperwork and had it shipped back to him, and we were done with the house. So we sold the house.
That's pretty, considering the intricacies of trying to sell a house. I can't imagine trying to do it from 3,000 miles away and all on FaceTime.
Farther than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
Wild.
That is amazing. So what is, talk about the family dynamic there. I mean, you've got how many kids? You said 4?
3 children.
Three. So still, what age group are we talking about, and what's the effect on them?
So when we left, there was 4.5, 6, and 7 was the age. And in fact, this evening we went through some nostalgia and watched. We actually put together a handful of videos for about the first 10 or 12 weeks of our travels. And they're still on YouTube. And so we went and watched a whole bunch of them. We're like, oh, we want to travel again. The world hasn't really opened up yet. Okay, well, we bought a house in Northwest Arkansas, so we kind of can't leave for too long. Yeah, so it was fun watching those videos. But our big goal was, aside from we just want to see the world because, oh my gosh, I grew up the youngest of 7 kids. We never had money. My first vacation my entire life was my honeymoon. So that's kind of where I come from. And I didn't want that for my kids. So we really wanted to expose them to God's creation. We wanted to expose them to humanity as image bearers of Christ, and to see that whether you grew up on a literal dirt floor or you grew up, on thousands of years of humanity's history, and you've got, a much richer history than, America has. Right. We're all still image bearers of God. And whether you're cutting down grass to literally tie it to a stick to make a broom, or you go to Walmart to get your broom, you still got to sweep the same floors.
Right.
And so that was one of our big goals, was we really wanted the children to see creation and to see humanity and to see that people are imbued with dignity and value and worth, not because we're so special in and of ourselves, but because God made us special. And they're going to smell different in this part of the world because they eat lots of garlic. And they're going to smell different here because they eat lots of rice and they don't have a whole lot of protein. And they're going to smell different here because of whatever. And we really got to show the kids and ourselves, for that matter, a lot more of the world than I even imagined when I was a kid.
That's amazing. Very cool. Well, I'm glad you're here to share the story tonight. That's really cool. Dan, I don't know how we top that.
I drove to the store today. It was all the way in town.
Yeah, I'm.
Well, we ran out of gas on a pontoon in the lake because I thought I had a few more minutes worth of gas, and we
There
did.
you go,
So,
thinking.
You know,
Oh man,
it's got pluses, it's got minuses.
there you go. We. You're talking about traveling when you're a kid, and your first vacation being your honeymoon. That's kind of, I mean, for us as kids, our vacations were traveling across the state to the rural part of North Carolina to visit family and to see how our grandparents and cousins and uncles and nephews and aunts and all those folks roughed it and wished we could get home as quick as possible because there was no TV and there was places no running water and, you know, two-holers and all of that stuff. But yeah, the ability to go and visit other countries, best I could say is I've been to Winnipeg, and that's pretty much it. So, and that ain't saying much. So, Dan, what about you? I mean, what was travel like when you were a kid? Were they dragging you all over the place? Or I'm trying to remember, you've talked about your family before,
Well,
but I can't.
I grew up in Minnesota. I was born in Michigan. So we had a lot of family all over Michigan.
Right.
So for holidays and summer breaks, we would regularly make the drive. It was a 13, 14-hour drive, pack the whole family in the family truckster. And actually, we had a lot of fun doing it. There was a couple of restaurants we would hit along the way, stop in Chicago. I can't even tell you how many times we made that trip, but it was always fun. We got to have a good relationship with aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody else that we never would have had the opportunity to see. So it was fun. I have lots of good memories of my Thanksgivings and Christmases in Michigan.
Very cool.
Nice.
It's Father's Day weekend, so we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But before we do the traditional, what are you drinking tonight? Oh, what's in the glass there, Dan? We didn't.
This is
got a peek at
Rebel Yell Small Batch Rye.
Oh,
Nice.
okay, nice. Rebel Yell. Okay,
Nice.
I've got to add that to my list. My list is getting expensive.
I've had this bottle sitting around for a while. I had a friend over the other night, and he saw, "Ooh, look, I can open that one." And that's why they're there. So
Right, exactly. William, how about you? Anything tonight?
You know, I got a phone call from a nephew. He's in the military and he's very entrepreneurial. He's buying a business in New York. Called me up and said, "Hey, what do we need to know about this before we try to buy?" And so we were talking outside. I'm like, I got a call to jump on. Well, he's actually in Texas. He's stationed at Fort Bliss. And he knows a guy in New York who's good friends with. Like I said, he's entrepreneurial, very clever. They've already started a business there. Now they wanted to buy a laundromat. And they're like, we don't know what we need to know about a laundromat to know whether it's okay to buy it. So I'm like, well, you got to get your financial statements. You got to get, have they paid their taxes? Have they maintained the machinery? So we had some conversation there. And quite frankly, I didn't have any time to do anything but turn my computer on. So I'm going to go grab a whiskey, actually.
Go grab a whiskey.
So I'll answer that shortly.
Yes, go do that. We'll hold down the fort for you. Tonight it's whiskey sours with Pendleton. So,
oh, there you go.
Cheers. That was the thing I couldn't remember what it was I was drinking that night, and I said it's some whiskey thing. I don't know. My brain was fogged from too much of it, I guess, and I couldn't remember what it was I was drinking. So it looks like it's just going to be the three of us. I did not hear from the pastor or Mia as to whether or not they might make it tonight. So I don't think so. I got a pontification for this week's show, but I got nothing else. So it's going to be next week's show. This is going to be this week's show. So the plan was that this week was going to be variety show and we were going to do this next week, but my daughter's playing volleyball. So next weekend is the last weekend of the season they play 2 matches Friday night, and then Saturday is tournament. So I had no idea what next Saturday was going to be like. And I figured, well, I better do it this weekend then.
Yes, indeed.
So
Some things you just can't miss.
I'm trying not to. I missed 2 weeks at the start of her season just because of work. In fact, I was working 30 minutes before this started. I just signed off and I was like, I got to go. I got this other thing I need to get started. So I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off to get everything set up. And at the last minute, which is my want. It's kind of how I do things.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for William to come back with some frosty beverage, let's catch up a second. What have you been up to since last we were together?
Well, we've got a bunch of changes at work. We've got some new management. We've got new people in the office, and praise the Lord, they're actually decent people that I get along with and that know what they're doing. So we've been blessed there. So work is getting along just fine, and we're changing and moving and shaking and everything else.
What do you do for a living?
I fix things. I'm
Gotcha.
a mechanic, basically.
You're a fixer.
I am a fixer of stuff.
Got it. I like it. Okay. And it's always good to have good customers and good coworkers and management that appreciates what you do. So
It sure makes it easier to show up every day. That's for sure.
Indeed, it does. Hey, Ed is going to join us. Ed Fuhrmann is going to join us. Although I suspect Ed is probably just going to listen in. Ed is sneaky like that. Ed would join our when we used to do these live on Facebook and on YouTube. Ed would just sort of prowl around and listen and pretend pretend that nobody knew he was there. And he would send us occasionally, and I think Ed would be working around the house, so he'd just connect and listen to the proceedings, which was always nice. But we haven't had a chance to actually get him in here. So I suspect he's doing the same thing. So William is back with Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Rye. Ooh, a couple of rye whiskeys tonight. All right, where's my list? Crying out loud. Okay, so one was Rebel Yell.
I would drink this again. That was my first sip ever of the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Rye. I tried one the other day. It was Templeton Rye, the good stuff, and I think that was only aged 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit longer. Long story short, a friend of a friend was nearby when a semi-tractor trailer crashed carrying a whole load of this stuff, and he ended up with a whole lot of it. So I was able to get him at like $15 a bottle instead of $45 a bottle.
Oh my goodness.
And it was the smoothest rye I'd ever had. So it was Templeton Rye out of Iowa, and it was called the Good Stuff. That was the name of it, and it was very nice. So rye tends to be a bit too harsh for me. I don't enjoy all of them like I do a standard bourbon, but this one, it's got a little bite, but it's very smooth. I like it.
Nice.
And have you guys done any kind of whiskey tasting or spirit tasting, like gone to an actual distillery and done this? One thing I learned once or twice this year, right? I've done this on the Isle of Skye in Scotland. We've done it in London. We've done it in Edinburgh, Scotland. We've done it in Tennessee. No, not Tennessee. Where were we? Yeah, it was Tennessee. So anyway, we've done it all over. One thing I learned in the last year or so, obviously you want to smell it and you want to get the head, you want to get the nose, you want to open up some of those flavors. But when you go to slurp it, what they told me in wine tasting class was, let it kind of dance across your tongue. But when you're doing it with a whiskey, open your mouth when you're breathing in through your nose, and you get much more complex aromas going across your olfactories. So if you just do it with the closed mouth, it's very alcohol centric. If you do it with an open mouth and you breathe in through your nose and your mouth, you get more complex and deeper scents that go across your nose. I kid you not, it's the weirdest thing ever. Give it a try.
Okay, so breathe when I drink. All right, let me write that down. Hang on.
Yes. No. Breathe when you're smelling.
The smelling part, not the drinking part.
When you stick your schnoz in there and you take a big sniff, open your mouth also, because you're getting air in both, the nostrils and the mouth, and you actually get a more robust scent. What do they call it? A scent profile.
Thank you for clarifying that, so Dan doesn't drown himself.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know.
Bad, and I'd feel sorry.
What a way to go! He drowned in Rebel Yell whiskey tonight.
I can think of a lot worse ways to go.
There are worse ways to go. This is true. Man, a whole truckload of wow. So how did that work? Because I want to know how this works. So I want to see if I can.
I'm not 100% certain. As far as I was promised, it was all above board.
Crashed?
I think they couldn't resell it. It went down somewhere near where this friend of a friend was, and it was determined that they couldn't sell it on the retail market, and so they sold it on the secondary market. I don't know. All I know is I enjoyed the whiskey, so I bought a 6-pack from him because I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to last, but I like it, so I'd like to get some more.
Lord, I've seen what you've done for other people. Do also for me. Let's see. So, we talked with Dan about this, but what did you do for a living prior to becoming the roving vagabond that you are now? And what do you do now? Are you just simply living off of the rent from, well, no, you sold that. So are you just living off the proceeds from the sale of the home?
That helped. But no, I'm an accountant. So I do a lot of bookkeeping and accounting. And the nice thing about this industry is so much of it can be done virtually. So most of what I've been doing the last 5 years has been 100% in the cloud. And I in fact, true story, our first trip around the world, some good friends of mine who I grew up with since the time we were very young, they're now married, they have 4 kids, and they have been full-time missionaries in Spain, but we couldn't make it to Spain on our trip. Long story short, something changed, and when we made new arrangements, we weren't going to have enough visa days to be in country, so we didn't go to Spain. So I made my wife promise that if we went international again, Spain was on the list, or else we didn't go. So in 2020, our plan for 2020 was to do Portugal, to do Spain, to visit our friends in France, and then spend the second half of 2020 doing a road trip. We were going to go to Boise. We were going to go to Colorado. We were going to go to Northwest Arkansas. We were going to go to Franklin, Tennessee, South Carolina, and then go visit family in Massachusetts and Indiana, and just stay for a couple of weeks or a month and say, does this feel like home? Sure, let's move here. The kids really wanted to have a home base. They really wanted to have friends that weren't just on Zoom any longer. Like, hey, we spent a couple of weeks together, but now we only know each other on Zoom. And so that was our plan for 2020. But as we were driving down into Malaga, we were on a train on our way down into Malaga, where my friends were living. They phoned us up and said, Spain's going on lockdown because of this whole COVID thing. So it won't be legal for you to stay in your Airbnb across town and then come drive to see us. Likewise, we can't see you. So you can stay in our playroom. And by the way, we've all been sick. My kids keep picking stuff up from school, and we're all sick and not feeling well. So you can risk that, or we just won't see you for the first month. And so we ended up praying about it, and we stayed with them, and we were sick out of our minds, like coming out every end, fevers left and right. When all the news was going crazy saying, if you're traveling and you need to come home, hop on a Mercy flight and come home now, we couldn't have gotten on a flight because of the fevers and the vomiting and all that. So we ended up what was going to be about 5 or 6 weeks in Spain, and then a little bit longer in France and then come home. And then the second half of 2020 was going to be, where do we want to live for the next few years? We got stuck in Spain for like 7 or 8 months, and we actually couldn't come home. And by the time we ended up finally making it to France, there was riots, and we're like, hey, let's not go home because we don't want to burn, and see the cities burning, yada, yada. So we ended up essentially being gone almost entirely 2020, mostly COVID lockdown and restrictions related. We finally decided, hey, we can't do this road trip, so let's just kind of pick a spot. We did our internet research and decided on Bentonville, Arkansas. And it turned out to be, fantastic. We absolutely love our home. We love our church. We love our friends. It's been.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
He told us this could happen.
He warned us it might.
He did.
He got raptured.
He disappeared.
What just happened?
Somebody beamed him out.
I disappeared. Okay. How's that?
Suddenly you were
I just moved my phone, my hotspot outside, so it gets better internet. Anyway, so we picked Bentonville, Arkansas. We ended up finding our realtor right about the same time, Lloyd, that I was talking to you on one of your monthly hangouts while we were in Scotland. And we said, hey, we're not even in country. We'd kind of like to look around. Can you show us houses remotely? Some of our guys ever. And she's like, I don't know if this is real or if they're playing a prank on me, but if it's real, I really want to meet these people. And they ended up becoming some of the best friends we've got.
Very cool.
Friends that play pranks usually turn out to be good friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Bentonville's a nice area. It's I used to, back before COVID, I used to head up that direction to Perryville for IDPA matches at Central Arkansas Shooters Association, CASA. And nice place, nice area. Did you just choose it by like random?
And if you like mountain biking, they've got a ton of mountain biking.
Oh.
We did a lot of research. My wife grew up in a real cute town in Northern California that had a legitimate downtown. And that was really important to her. So she wanted to have a flourishing, functional downtown. Bentonville has that in spades. It's the home of Walmart, and the Walton family really has poured money back into it. So it's a beautiful town. They've got hundreds of miles of mountain biking trails. They've got beautiful parks. It's right on the edge of the Ozarks, so lots of green. And there are 4 legitimate seasons. Where I grew up in Southern California, we had like 2.5. So it's really nice to actually have snow and legitimate seasons. You can see when it changes. You're like, we're definitely not in spring anymore. This is different.
Right. Yeah. That is one thing that I miss having moved to Texas is the change of the seasons. I didn't think I would miss it as much as I do, but I do like actually having, spring and not like false spring and actual fall. And, we go from like a zillion degrees to it's freezing your butt off. And then you get this one day where you think, oh, okay, it's going to be nice. And the temperature changes 40 degrees in 12 hours. Insane, but it's still that's the one thing I guess about North Carolina I miss the most is seeing the fall foliage and the changes of the seasons. It's especially being from Western North Carolina, right in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and being able to just drive up on the Blue Ridge Parkway and take in all of the seasonal changes. Really amazing stuff. They don't even have real trees here in Texas. I don't know what they grow here. It's just not normal.
See, in Washington, we've got warm rain and cold rain. And then summer is 2 days of sunshine somewhere July or August.
Yeah. We're heading into that part of the summer right now where, it's so hot that a hobbit came by and threw a ring in our backyard because it's hot as blazes outside. I got the only way I could mow this morning was to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, eat a little breakfast, get out there before it gets unbearably hot, and try to get it done as quickly as possible. Thank goodness I don't have much of a yard. If I had the kind of yard I had in North Carolina, or even worse, the kind of yard I used to have to mow in North Carolina, I mean, when I was growing up, we had acres. I don't understand how people here, like Bill will get out and he'll mow for the entire day in this heat. I don't understand how he does that. Of course, he carries around a plate carrier and a vest and all that stuff.
To keep warm.
He's used to all that discomforting heat. So I don't know.
Well, I've never lived in Texas, but I was stationed at Fort Sill for a number of years, and it was pretty warm down there.
Yeah, it's a little bit, just a little bit. There were a couple of things I did want to discuss or get your thoughts on tonight. Now that we've done the whole "what are you drinking" thing and what have you been doing lately, the gun control debate, as we expected in our last meeting, has now turned into something. The Senate has approved a framework, or at least these 10 or 20, what is it? It's 10 from each side. 20 senators have agreed on this framework for gun, again, air quoting, gun safety measures. Have you had a chance to look at it? What are your thoughts on it? And what do you think happens with it? Dan, start with you.
Well, I think it's a shame that they're not talking about doing anything meaningful or useful that would have any impact on the crime that we see in the United States that sometimes involves guns and sometimes doesn't. They're focusing on the wrong thing, and I think it's a waste of time. And in the meantime, we have a lot more crime going on. And some of it involves guns, some of it doesn't. Guns aren't the problem. And it's frustrating as all get out to have people spending so much time, resources, and effort on a freaking tool. I mean, it's like a saber saw. It's like a skill saw. It's like a drill. Guns are just a tool. Bad guys are going to use tools. That sometimes they use guns, sometimes they use other things.
Yeah.
Gun control isn't going to do anything for crime.
It's not. Well, fixing the societal problems is not something that politicians are really up for. They can't, I mean, they're not interested because it's not something that's simple to fix, right? It's the problem that we have in this country compared to, like, you used to be able to go into a hardware store and buy a gun without a background check. And we didn't have school shootings, and we didn't have the mass killings that we see on a regular basis. There it goes to sniffing. He's demonstrating for us. It must be really good. That must be really good stuff.
I like it.
Right. Awesome. I'm going to try that. See if I can avoid drowning tonight. But
the societal things that they need to concentrate on don't involve new laws, don't involve trying to come up with a plan. I think we would be far better off if they would prosecute crime. I think that would be a good start if we could just prosecute the criminals instead of letting them go, instead of giving them $10 bail, instead of like our vice president raising money for bail for people who are burning cities down. We've got DAs that refuse to prosecute crime.
Yep.
And I think that's a problem. I don't think guns are the problem. I think lack of enforcement of laws is a problem.
Right. And the problem with that, of course, is if you say that that's the problem, then the ultimate, tie that back to, well, why is that a problem? It's a problem because of the policies of the people who are in power. So they're not going to try to fix that because that makes them look like crap. So it's easier to focus on the tool than it is to actually do something meaningful. So they're not going to fix the societal issues because that's just way too long in the past, and it's going to take forever to fix. They're not going to focus on the things that are actually the problem, like you were talking about, because those things point to them, right? Those things are a mess because of their policies. So the obvious low-hanging fruit is, well, let's just go back to the well and let's blame the gun. And when you've got a compliant media that's pushing the narrative that guns are the problem, and you have a largely ignorant public who will believe the stuff that they hear about guns in the media, that the AR-15 will decapitate a human or that a 9mm will blow the lungs out of you, which is just absolutely insane. But there are people who believe this stuff. That's the even scarier part.
Ignorance isn't a bad thing.
We're all ignorant about something.
Most Americans are ignorant about firearms, and that's not a bad thing. And it says nothing about them. It just means they don't know. They haven't had the opportunity to be trained, or had no desire to be trained or learn anything about it. And that's cool. That's fine.
And my point was only that because the public is generally ignorant about guns, they're easy to scare and manipulate. So you make the gun to be the bad guy. It's the scary thing that can blow your lungs out, right? And the people who are generally ignorant about guns, they hear that and they think, okay, it's being said on the news. The president's saying this stuff. It must be true.
They're the professionals.
They're the experts. It's funny that because I was just going back through some old articles. I'm trying to put together a compilation of old stuff to put together in a book. And one of the articles I was editing this morning with a pipe and a frosty beverage was called Experts. And it was talking about this exact subject, which is very odd that we're talking about it now. The American public is generally not well versed. I'll not use the term ignorant. I'll just say they're not well versed in guns. And they have a tendency to believe that if someone in public office is making policy on something, they know what they're talking about. They know, or the media knows what they're talking about. When in reality, where's my cell phone? We have this thing that has we can access all of the information from eternity. I mean, from the dawn of time in our pocket. And we can't, too many Americans won't use this thing, including our elected officials. They won't even Google to figure out if what they think they know is what they know.
The shoulder thing that goes up.
The shoulder thing that goes up. Yes. Yeah.
And if there's a 9mm round that can blow a lung out, I might start carrying a 9mm. That would be slick.
Maybe that's is that 30 super carry?
Actually, I carry 357 SIG because it's faster.
Oh my gosh. You're one of those people.
I am one of those people.
That blows people's ears out on the range. Yes.
Yeah, I went ahead and got I prefer the 9 just for the shootability, repeat shots, etc. But I went ahead and got a Glock 23 so that I could have a 40 barrel, a 9 conversion barrel, and a 357 SIG barrel, because the only difference in part is between the 40 and the 357 SIG is the barrel.
Is the barrel, right?
Right.
And you can use the magazines interchangeably, literally everything else. So I've got that hanging. Dan, I think we agree on virtually everything that you said. I will take issue with one comment you said, because I think by and large, Democrats politic more hard than Republicans politic. They learned.
I'd agree. They
learned what John Correa calls tactical patience. So you said they're wasting time on this legislation or whatever it happens to be. I disagree. I think they know exactly what they're doing. They're stalling because of the ignorance of the populace, and they're demonizing the tool, and they're stalling long enough so people are not willing to put 2 and 2 together and recognize what's going on.
I'll take that. I can agree with that.
It's like what Tom Gresham says all the time. He comments about how they always want to say, well, it's a good first step. This gun legislation we're passing isn't going to solve the problem. It's not going to fix crime, but gosh darn, it's a good first step, or it's a good next step. Because
Tom Gresham is just a new guy in the gun world, isn't he?
The goal.
Who is this?
Tom Gresham's just a new guy. He's an up and comer.
Oh, okay, yeah. Never heard of that guy.
He's been around a minute. That's about it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I was thinking about this, and I was talking about something else not related to guns with my wife today. And Democrats play the long game, right? They don't
do it well.
about that gun control legislation that they trot out every time. They know that if they trot out the same because that's the ultimate goal, right? Is ban X, Y, and Z and confiscate.
Civilian disarmament.
Yes. They know they can't get there all in one chomp. So they bring that thing out. It's sort of like when you're playing poker. I'm not a poker player, but I'm assuming that when you're gambling, you
watched a Western once or twice.
I've watched a Western a time or two. you play this hand, right? You play you say, or when you're negotiating a deal, right? You ask for the moon because you know you're not going to get the moon, but you might get a big sliver of it. And Democrats go there every single time. That gun control bill that, what is her name? Feinstein trots out every time there's a mass shooting has not been changed, with the exception of just adding new model names, probably for 30 years. And she just trots it out, cleans it up, blows the dust off, and that becomes the new Democrat gun control bill. And that's the lead position. And then they come back and they're like, okay, well, we'll settle for whatever. And unfortunately, like you were saying, Dan, Republicans they tend to be more like go along to get along. Except for Trump, they were not really interested. They're more interested in being liked than they are in standing up for their values. Honestly, I don't think the values that we as conservatives hold are their values. I think they just use them as a way to get votes.
And Trump wasn't even all peaches and cream.
No.
I mean, I voted for him, and I would again, likely, if there wasn't someone better. But even he was like, bump stock? Sure, let's ban this thing with the sign of a signature in my pen here.
But the reason that he was popular was because he would fight back.
He was better at fighting back than all the rhinos out there.
Yeah.
And Republicans really like to see someone fighting, regardless of who he was or even what he was fighting for. They like to see someone on their side fighting for a change. Yeah. It was refreshing. Yeah.
It really was. We were so tired of, well, okay, vote for us and we're going to fight back against the Democrats, and you give them the House. Well, we really can't do anything unless we have the Senate. You need to vote for us for the Senate. You need to give us control of the Senate. Then we give them the control of the Senate. Well, we really need control of the White House too. And you give them control of the White House, and then they don't follow through on any of their promises. It's all just a game to them. And our rights are just something to use to vote, to garner votes. Democrats don't play that. Democrats are absolutely dead set on getting what they want, and they will fight for it tooth and nail. And unfortunately, they also know that Republicans at some point will cave because the media will make them look bad if they don't. And that's why we've got this framework for gun safety. It's because like we said last month when we met, right, Dan, we were talking about how Republicans were probably going to cave and give in on something.
Yep. And because they want to be liked.
They want to be liked. They don't want to be demonized in the media. They want to
don't call me bad names. Please don't call me bad names. It will hurt me.
Exactly. We want to be invited to the dinner parties.
Well, and by and large, I think that Republicans are too principled as individuals to play the politic game the way the Democrats do.
I think there's a lot in that. I think there's a lot in that. Yep.
There are some things where I'm like, no, I promised myself as a 15-year-old that when I got to the age of vote, I would never vote for any politician, left, right, center, or otherwise, who was for abortion, because for me that is a hard-nosed issue. They might agree with me on everything else, but if they vote to kill babies, that's a hard no for me. And so, we come to this from a very principled standpoint, and we're like, oh, they're okay on this issue, but they're not okay on this issue, so I can't vote for them. And leftists in general, they're like, we want power. Sure, I don't care if you call yourself a pony with rainbow farts, like, sure, as long as you're on my side.
If you have
I'll
the
vote
D
for
next to your name, I'm voting for you. That's
so
it.
we have some issues that I there are a couple of things I absolutely won't bend on, but there's a lot of others that I've come to the opinion where, I can hold my nose and vote for someone if it's going to legitimately move the entire platform forward. But by and large, I think Republicans are just too principled of individuals that it really hurts us when it comes to actually getting people in who will move things in a positive direction. And by positive, I mean moving forward the cause of freedom.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that
in order to do that, you need to be able to have people not like you and call you bad names. And if that hurts your soul and destroys your personality, you shouldn't be doing it. I mean, first of all, who cares what people think about you? I care what my wife thinks about me.
Amen.
And my son. But, I can't say that I'm really terribly concerned about much of anybody else.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem with politics, right? You have to care about what everybody thinks of you, because if you don't, they're not going to vote for you. Now, unfortunately, they extend that to, I care about what the media thinks of me. And unlike Ron DeSantis, who I think would be an absolutely fantastic candidate in 2024 if Trump decides, God, I hope he doesn't run, but if the pathway is clear for DeSantis, I think he is a fantastic candidate, because he plays the game better, I think, than anybody we've seen on the right in a while. He knows the stats. He knows the facts. He can articulate it in a way that Trump never could. He can articulate.
And he stands up for what he believes in.
And he stands up for, and he will fight back if he's in a press conference and a reporter asks him a dumb question, a loaded question that is obviously slanted. He will call them out and absolutely embarrass them, and it's fantastic.
And that's fun to watch.
It really is. It is awesome. That's the kind of thing we need more of. That principle and that willingness to fight back, that I don't think we have in large part in the Republican Party at the moment. They want too much to be liked.
Right.
They care more about they're conservative more in the fiscal policy area. They can care more about tax rates than they really care about the culture wars. And I think we need somebody who does both and is able to, or cares about both, and is able to articulate it the way that DeSantis is able to do it.
Sure. And the culture war has been a nightmare for the last couple of decades. We collectively have allowed Democrats to demonize conservatives as hating men that love men or women that love women, and not liking people who have different skin pigmentations. We need to find someone and find a way to point out the fact that none of us really care about that. I shoot with a lot of gay people. I shoot with a lot of Black, Asian, all kinds of flavors of the rainbow people, and nobody cares. None of us give a rip what you are, what you believe in, or anything else. We're out at the range, having a good time together, enjoying something that both of us like to do. I don't look down on them. I don't think they look down on me. We're just enjoying the moment. And there's a lot of that in the gun culture. I see it all the time at IDPA matches. You see all flavors of people in IDPA. You see all flavors of people just going to your local gun range. But we've allowed Democrats to demonize us, saying that we don't like those kind of people. I don't know. There's a couple of them that I really like hanging out with. We can talk about what our belief systems are, but we're there to shoot. We're there to hang out. And that's what we do. If you want my opinion, I'd love to talk to you about it, but we don't dislike people because of what they are.
And I think that's the problem where we are as a society, is that we've gotten to the point that we can't agree to disagree anymore, right? I like you, but I disagree with you, but we can still be friends. I don't think that's even in large part. I'm not sure that's even possible. Well, it is possible when you get down to person. When you get in, there's a certain level at which, right? We used to talk about. Remember back when Obergefell was passed in the Supreme Court, the gay marriage thing, and the whole argument at that point was, we just want to be left alone. We want to have the same, ability to marry and love and all that stuff, right? Well, the slippery slope has turned into now, like you were saying, it's not just we get along and we leave each other alone. It's if you don't agree with me and you don't affirm and celebrate my choices in life, then you are a hater, and you have to be you have to be silenced. And that gets to some of this stuff with the framework, the gun control framework, because we're talking about red flag laws, which is right now apparently I don't know whether they've worked it out. Last I heard, like yesterday, there was some sticking point about red flag laws, that they weren't specific enough, and there was possibility they wanted to make sure there was no possibility for abuse. I don't trust. Yeah, right. I don't trust the government enough to give them that power, because we've seen what they do when we don't agree on something simple. When we just I don't agree with that. Do what you want to do. I just don't agree with it. You can't even do that anymore without being demonized as being a hateful, bigot, misogynist, whatever. So and we've seen plenty of times when people will say something online and a leftist, even a member of Congress, will come out and say, see, this is why we need red flag laws. Why on earth would we not trust the government when we hear that kind of stuff, when people suggest that we shouldn't even be able to speak in public because we disagree on an issue that to us is not really an issue?
Seems like there's an amendment that addresses that directly. I think it's the first one.
Well, yeah, I think they would very much like to rewrite that. I get amused at them talking about free speech, while at the same time talking about how they need to be able to censor people's speech because that's protecting free speech.
And the silly thing about it is the Bill of Rights. The entire Bill of Rights is written to restrict government, and we have government telling us, well, we need to change that. Restrict. Well, no, it's written to restrict you, and no, Amen. You can't change it. And there is a way to change it. We've changed it a number of times. Have at it. It's well documented in our Constitution how you change that Bill of Rights and how you change any part of the Constitution. So go for it.
Go ahead, William. I think we cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just agreeing.
Oh, you're just agreeing. Okay, cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's, it's just a bunch of frustrating stuff that we can't control, from here, but the other side, and I'll use the term leftist because I know a few really, really good Democrats, but leftists in general, they play the long game. They know what they're doing. They've got the tactical patience. They're willing to get things incrementally. Whereas we're like, no, we need to fix it now. It's like, yeah, I wish we could, but I'd much rather get a few of the rights restored that had been completely infringed. But I'd much rather get a few of them here and a few of them there, rather than saying, okay, we'll listen to your version of compromise where we lose a few of the rights that you want to take away from us. Yeah, we're not that good at politicking.
Yeah, we are terrible at politicking because the idea of compromise that the Republicans play and Democrats push is always, you agree with us on some of our stuff. We won't get everything we want, but you're going to give us some of what we want. That's compromise somehow. that, and we're just, every time we increment, every time we do this, every time there's a mass shooting, every time there's a school shooting, there's an incremental loss of our freedoms. And it's not, and we don't seem to have the political will to fight back because we don't want to look like the bad guy in the media. And I don't know.
I don't
how
care
we
if I
change
look
that.
like a bad guy.
As
long as my wife doesn't think I'm a bad guy, I'm okay.
I got jumped on this week on YouTube because I supported the Martin Luther and the idea of the what was it, the Magdeburg Confession, the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. An episode from like 100 episodes back.
To say that was a long time ago. I remember that
long time. That was that was episode 150 something. And somebody just fell across it and then wrote this huge diatribe about how crazy that I was for supporting all that, what a heretic I am, and how Lutherans don't even believe in the true presence. And I mean, he didn't even know what he was talking about. But
well, hey, come to our online hangout and we'll all talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether we want this guy, but
it would be fun.
It would
be interesting.
He was even making all these points about a book that we didn't even reference in the episode. So people are just crazy. I don't care what people think. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, we're going to get attacked. The left of the media is going to make us out to be horrible people. We have to have for lack of a better term, we have to have the gonads to stand up and say, no, that's not right. That's a lie. And here's why we're doing this. Here's why we believe what we believe. Here's why this thing that you're proposing isn't going to work. Here's why this thing that we want or we suggest is a better solution.
And that's biblical. We have been told that we will be attacked. We will be hated. They will come for us. They will disagree with us.
Yep.
We were told that, and it's in this book that I read regularly. So the response to that isn't to just lie down and take it. The response to that is to make sure that you have a good relationship with your God and that you are familiar with his teachings. And when we're talking about politics, be familiar with the Constitution and be able to actually have a decent discussion with people and point out, well, I appreciate your ideas, but you're wrong. Here's what it actually says. Yeah. Just like you do with someone who wants to argue with you about the Bible. Well, I can see why you would understand that, but let's actually open it up and we'll look at it. See, this is what it says right here. Let's go ahead and read it together.
The text.
Yeah.
What does it say?
Yep.
Yeah, we on the right really have a problem with allowing those on the left to craft the narrative, and narrative is so important. Biblically speaking, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it's a radio show that I've always listened to on a podcast called The White Horse Inn. Traditionally,
are they still doing their show?
They're still doing it. Yes, they are.
Okay, I thought they had stopped at some point, and I wasn't. I think They might have, but they're still going. It's not the same original hosts, but it was always a conversation amongst various Reformed individuals. You had a Reformed, you had a Lutheran, you had a couple others. I couldn't tell you specifically, but it was always a really fascinating conversation. Mike Horton, Dr. Michael Horton, was one of the original guys who started it. They had the White Horse Inn radio / podcast, and they had the Modern Reformation magazine, and so that was kind of their two prongs of their media. Sorry, this looks like something else. Anyway, Mike Horton, some years ago, probably 8 or 10 years ago now, came out with a book called Core Christianity. And that is its own radio show / podcast now. And they've got a couple hundred episodes. Adriel Sanchez is the main host that I've seen on the episodes that I've watched. But in the book, they really harped on the notion of the story. And it wasn't just
a set of rules. It was what was happening in the story, and how does that actually affect you today in your story? How do you fit into his story? And that's kind of they really talked about the dogma and the doctrine and the doxology, but how it all fit into the story. And right now, we're not doing a great job of crafting a narrative or telling the story. Yes, we've got facts on our side. Yes, we've got history on our side. But quite frankly, if you can, as Louis L'Amour called himself, a troubadour, if you can spin a yarn and really get someone to listen to you, it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong, they will listen to you.
Yeah.
And
you need to communicate.
We're letting them craft the narrative. We're letting people who hate freedom tell us that we're phobic. It's like, wait, no, I disagree with you philosophically. Doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. I'm not afraid to touch you or anything like that. But you're calling me, whatever the topic is, transphobic. No, I'm not. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of trans people in general. I'm not afraid of anyone who's confused on whether they were born something or not. And in fact, God tells us very specifically, you must be born again. So I don't care how you were born, because that has nothing to do with how you ought to behave regardless. But it also doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. And they literally craft the whole narrative, and they command everything that everyone thinks, because they're saying, well, you're phobic of this. Well, no, I'm not. But now everyone else thinks so, which goes back to the whole, people on the right are like, oh, I want to be liked, so I guess I gotta capitulate to whatever they're saying.
We tend to be more reactionary instead of being instead of driving the narrative and proactive. We tend to wait until the fan gets hit with the excrement, and then we start to react. And at that point, it's too late, because they've driven the narrative right into our front yard, and there's nothing we can do but react to it. We don't sell the story like you were saying. We don't tell the story. We wait until, I guess we better do something about this, or we're going to look bad. That's when we start to react, and it's unfortunate, because we're losing the culture as a result. We're not driving the narrative and selling the values that, instead of waiting until we're attacked to defend the values, we should be espousing the values up front.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, it's podcasts like this and White Horse Inn and Ben Shapiro and some others on the conservative side. But the mainstream media is not paying any attention to that stuff. They're driving the narrative, and Republicans tend to sit back and wait until something bad happens, and they have to react, because it's going to cost them an election. They're worried. That's why this, and we talked about this last month. That's why this whole framework and all the compromise is happening, because Republicans are worried. They know they're going to win in 2022. They know they're going to win because Joe Biden is just crap as a president. He is absolutely the worst. I cannot believe that polls are showing he even has 39% approval.
I actually feel sorry for him. The guy is not capable of carrying on a conversation or riding a bike, for that matter, from what I saw earlier today.
Somebody should be arrested for elder abuse.
Yes.
And by somebody, I mean a whole lot of people. His wife in particular.
Yeah.
This is.
I still don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the guy, because the guy is just garbage.
Do you guys ever watch any kind of news from anywhere else, like Australia, for example?
Oh yeah,
I do. Sky News just absolutely trashes him. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's the most exciting and realistic.
But the thing is that's the representative of the United States. We, all of us in the United States, are a laughingstock now because of who we've chosen as our leader,
as our representative leader.
He's a moron, and I don't think it's his fault. I think physically he's suffering from things that older people tend to suffer from.
I will take issue slightly with that. I think he's always been a moron. If you go back,
he's always been a plagiarist.
He's been a plagiarist.
Now he's just not in control.
Yes, and I think, to your point, the age thing, the mental, the dementia thing makes it even worse, because whatever the congenital liar, the moron that he was as a senator for 40 some odd years, now you add the dementia to it, it's just a whole new level of horrible. And it just makes it that much worse, because everybody can, now that he's the president, everyone can see it
on full display.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
You cannot not see it, and I cannot believe your point about elder abuse. I cannot believe they would allow him to get on a bicycle out in public. That is is so embarrassing. The guy can't walk up steps without tripping, and you're going to put him on a bicycle? Who on earth thought that was a good idea?
They need to be fired, because that was dumb.
Well, and Lloyd, to your point earlier about we're a laughingstock, rightly so. There have been people in this country voting for him for those 40 years. And that puts us smack in the middle of laughingstock territory. Hands down.
It really does. But I do think that, and to get back to the point I was trying to make, Republicans know that they're going to shellac the crap out of Democrats in November. They know they're going to win big. Even the media is admitting it's going to be a tsunami. They're going to get crushed.
So what do we do with that?
How do we keep it going?
Yeah,
because they're thinking November, and we three sitting here talking are thinking 23, 24, 25,
25, 26,
50.
27.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, November. We're going to win November.
We're going to win in November.
We're like, oh my gosh, get past that.
That gets us to the compromise stuff, though. That's where we get to the compromise, because Republicans are worried that this big, gigantic wave that's going to hit the Democrats in November, that something is going to disrupt that. They are worried that something is going to come along. The media is going to concoct something that makes them look bad and costs them votes. And maybe because I think the House is a foregone conclusion. I think the Senate is there's the possibility that something could go wrong and they could maybe not quite retake the Senate. I think that's
something
what they're
will happen.
About.
They will do something. They obviously will do something. They always do. As I would expect them to.
If history is a teacher, Dan is absolutely right.
So they're worried that thing is gonna cost them this great wave that they see coming. So now they figure the best way to do that, or to avoid that, is to get out in front of it by taking away the ability of the media and the left to paint us as unfeeling, uncaring child murderers, right? Because that's exactly how they've been portraying us. If you're an NRA member, you have blood on your hands. If you own a gun and you don't support gun control, you have blood on your hands.
I keep repeating, I know it's meme logic, but it makes more than 100%, which is not, mathematically possible, more than 100% sense. I will not be lectured by the administration that armed a Taliban. You know what?
I want somebody to say that in a press. When I first saw that
in a massively public format, yes. It needs to be said. It needs to be said. It needs to be hammered.
I want
over
Mitch
and over
McConnell
again
to come out and say that kind of. Why can't we have a speaker of the big head honcho in the Republican Congress? Why can't he say something that simple? I'm not going to have to be lectured by someone
on gun control
by someone who gave 300 million guns to the Taliban. I'm not going to be lectured about protecting kids
and helicopters.
Yeah, those tanks and helicopters that we supposedly need to be able to fight back against the government, because remember, the AR-15 is simultaneously, this is the weird logic, simultaneously, it is the worst, most horrible weapon that you can possibly use, right? It'll blow holes through tanks. But at the same time, it's not enough to overthrow the government.
Yep.
So why are they worried about it? Anyway, that's aside.
I also refuse to be lectured to on the topic of valuing human life by people who vote for abortion.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I'm like, you have no, like, hello, leg department. Yeah, my opponent needs a leg because they have nothing to stand on. Like, they have nothing that they can actually present that says, I value human life, while they're legitimately.
No, you're killing innocent babies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's human life, whether it's embryonic, whether it's fetal, whether it's just born. It's human life. And if they're willing to
make it worse
that.
And they make it worse because they talk about how we need to protect children. And at the same time, they won't protect the ones that aren't even born yet.
The most innocent among us.
But yes, that's the biblical reference right there. But they want to protect the children in the schools. They think taking away guns would do it. No, I'm thinking if someone is in a school and they're trying to shoot people, first of all, you would want me there. But it would be really cool if some of the teachers who, I mean, face it, a lot of these elementary, junior high, senior high teachers, they kind of think of these kids as their kids. They care about them. They love them. They watch them grow up. A lot of them would love to be able to carry a firearm, to be able to get some training so that if anyone ever threatened them, they would be able to protect them.
That's why
I know a lot of teachers like that. And they would do that.
Yeah.
Now, some teachers don't want to carry guns. You don't have to.
Perfectly fine.
That's not a requirement at all. But if you feel strongly that you would like that training and you would like to be able to carry a firearm to protect those children, let me help. I'll give
this is back to crafting the narrative. The narrative that you hear in the news that I have heard a number of times is arming the teachers.
Yes.
No one on our side is trying to arm anybody. We're simply trying to say, remove the roadblocks, because these people who are willing to lay their lives down for the kids should not be left defenseless.
Yeah.
So we don't wish to harm anybody.
The problem is we keep using that phrase.
We want to open it up. We keep using it just like assault weapon. We should stop using that phrase.
Using it.
It's a made-up political term that only furthers the regressive party's side.
But the arming teachers thing is. But the arming teachers thing is on us. We need to stop saying that phrase completely, because it absolutely terrifies some people. Like you said, there are some people who, if you don't want to have a gun, if you don't want to carry a gun, we're not talking about forcing you to. But
just like anybody else.
Exactly. But the phrase arming teachers makes it sound like we're going to make it a requirement for all teachers to own or carry a gun at school.
Which that's perception.
We need to stop.
No one anywhere is talking about that except for the very few who are trying to scare by using that language.
Let's empower teachers to protect their children.
Yes, exactly. Amen. That is exactly right. And the problem with using that phrase is that it's too easy for the left to twist, even though we say it when we don't, not meaning exactly what it sounds like. We say it meaning allow our teachers to be armed, but because we say it the way we say it, it sounds like scare the crap out of every teacher in America.
Army teachers sounds like you want to issue a firearm to every teacher, and people say, "Oh, that would be horrific," and I agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I have seen libs of TikTok, and there are people I would not want to have. I would never want to put a firearm in their hands.
There's some teachers, just like there's some people that we know. They're uncomfortable with firearms. They don't want to be near firearms or anything else. And that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you one. If that's what you really think, I don't want to force you to have one. That's the last thing I want to do, because you're not going to train with it. You're not going to be proficient with it. You're certainly not going to be able to deploy it and use it. So why the heck should you have it?
Exactly. William, what is the Star Trek blue stuff that you're drinking? I saw you smelling it, so it must be good.
Yeah, It's interesting. This is called Sugarland's Shine.
Blueberry muffin.
Blueberry muffin moonshine.
It sounded interesting.
That does sound interesting.
If you're paying tax on it, it ain't moonshine. I mean, just truth be told here. So words matter, semantics aside here. It's as they describe it as neutral spirits with natural blueberry flavor and certified colors.
I don't want neutral. I want
certified colors. What's a certified color?
I don't know. So it sounded interesting, but this seems like the kind of thing you would want to use. It tastes like a neutral spirit with a little bit of blueberry, like nothing special. I will go back to another half a finger of one of these because this was much nicer. It had a lot more complexity.
I just saw that and I thought Star Trek for some reason, or the blue milk from Star Wars.
Blue milk. Yeah, I will go back. In fact, I'm going to rinse out my cups. I don't want the blueberry flavor in my rye.
No, that would not be good. Okay.
No thanks.
Enough of the horrible. Let's finish up. It's Father's Day. You guys got any memories or anything you would like to share about Dad on today's this being Father's Day weekend? Any memories of Dad you would like to share with us? Or
I have all kinds of stories about my dad. My dad, he went out of his way to make sure that he was a dad to our entire family. He's the greatest man I ever have known. And when I see attributes of my father in my son, nothing warms my heart more.
Fantastic. What was your dad's name?
Dick Veldt.
What did he do? What did he do for a living?
He worked. he was
handyman, did a little bit of everything. Did he have that gene?
Oh, he had advanced degrees in accounting and in engineering. He worked for Oldsmobile for a number of years. He worked in defense systems at Honeywell and FMC. He was a manager and a leader, and he was really good at his job.
Awesome. William, how about you?
I wish I had quite that brag tale that Dan's got. I'm the youngest of 7, and by the time that I came around, my dad was pretty much an alcoholic, and I don't remember him working a steady job ever. I played catch with my old man this many times. I mean, I can count on one finger how many times I played catch with him. I've got some ugly memories of him. And he died with Alzheimer's. He had he actually died of pneumonia, so complications of Alzheimer's that was not it wasn't caught right away in the care home he was in. So he did die earlier than he should have, but he'd had it since I was in junior high. But I've got some pretty fond memories of it, just with everything from he actually, oddly enough, was a big inspiration as far as firearms goes. He always had something nearby. He had a little. It wasn't the North American Arms; it was Freedom Arms, with the same little 5-shot 22.
Right.
I remember one time we had a problem with too many opossums in our backyard. He shot one with a rifle in our suburban, like we had an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an acre house. I mean, not a very large place. Right. And he shot it on the block wall fence as it was running away. And I was like, wow, even drunk, the old man could hit something. I mean, wow. He was a dead shot. He was amazing. And we all ended up with at least one of his firearms. I've got an Ithaca 37 from him. I just picked up because when we moved, I had to leave it in my safe at my brother's house. I just picked it up. It's beautiful. It's got a little etching on the side.
Family guns are awesome.
I delivered a I don't want to do that because people could be listening. Anyway, we all ended up with something of his, and I've got such fond memories of the few times we went out and did stuff with those firearms. He taught me a few lessons about bicycles. He taught me how to fix tires. I mean, some of these really basic things that you don't really see nowadays. People are like, "Oh, I got a flat tire. Let me go take it to the store. Go fix it." Like, no, my dad knew how to turn a wrench. My dad knew how to fix something. He knew how to bondo a car. Like, those are all things that I remember helping him with or trying to help him with. And I've got some really fond memories of. And
it's interesting.
I love to pass on things like that.
It's interesting that in this age where we're constantly told that family is pretty much anything that you want and that fathers aren't really important, that even bad fathers, there are lessons and memories that are formed that you carry with you, positive memories that you carry with you, even when your relationship with your father was not exactly perfect. And that just speaks to the importance, I think, of fathers in the family and when it comes to kids and how they grow up. I never had that kind of stuff growing up with my dad, but there are still certain little things that you still carry forward and you never forget, and they have a meaningful impact on your life. It really is amazing how important even a bad father is for kids.
There are so many households in America and worldwide, but America is where I live, so that's near dear to my heart. Where
you're in South Carolina, so we're not quite sure.
I'm largely in unoccupied America nowadays. That comment keeps getting my comments censored on like gun talk videos. I'm like, I moved out of California. I'm now in unoccupied America, and they're like, this violates our community standards. All the time.
I'm sorry, your standards are
even my comments that have nothing to do. Yeah. Yes. True story. Even my comments that have nothing to do with that keep getting banned. I think because someone knows my name now, and they keep reporting me. But so many of our households, and even some folks I grew up with that I still know to this day, their household was dominated by the empty seat at the table. Dad wasn't there. Dad wasn't even known. Dad might have been incarcerated or dead or just a deadbeat. Yeah. And the household was dominated by the empty seat at the table, and that's heartbreaking on every level. And I didn't understand the impact of that as a child going to my friend's house where the mom was doing everything because she was a single mom, and seeing how some of those friends ended up. One of those was my best friend, and his dad was around, but he spent a couple of years living with him and moved back. He's dead now, because the life choices he made. And I can trace a lot of that directly to the fact that his dad wasn't around. And the years he spent with his dad were cool, but it was like buddy dad, not I'm your father and I need to raise you. Yeah. And when he came back, he got right back into some old lifestyle choices. And, he was my best friend from my youth, and he's no longer with us. Father's Day is important because it's God the Father who created family. It's God the Father who established marriage. And oddly enough, he decided to make marriage an image of Christ in the church. And that's still a mystery.
That's a good design.
It's a great design when we participate.
Yes.
But when we have so many who are just sperm donors and that's about it, it leads to so many troubles. And we're on the one hand, I understand the social desire to want to help those in need, but on the long term, you see that we're subsidizing single motherhood, and we're making it so that we're rewarding coming home with more babies, more children without a father.
Yeah, well, it's not the government's job to support single moms. It's our job as the church. We're supposed to do that. The government isn't supposed to do that, and we need to.
There was somebody who mentioned, just in closing here, last thought, there was somebody, I don't remember where I saw this, who was talking about that unfortunately, society has painted the image, especially if you look at it in media, in entertainment, the image of dad is either
Homer Simpson.
Homer Simpson. He's either the deadbeat. He is
Idiot.
an idiot. He is, well, Homer Simpson.
Married with Children. What's
Married
that guy's
with Children. Ted
Al Bundy.
Al Bundy, not Ted Bundy.
Al Bundy.
Ted Bundy was a different thing.
Wrong Bundy family entirely. Holy cow. Yeah, he's either the deadbeat, or he's completely clueless, or he's overbearing, and it's never the positive. And unfortunately, our media today reinforces this stereotype, this idea that dads just don't matter. And
that's intentional. Once again, crafting the narrative.
Completely intentional. And if we're ever going to recover the culture, we've got to change that, because we can't, like you said, we can't keep subsidizing single motherhood. At some point, we've got to create a culture that celebrates family, the intact nuclear family.
Entire family. Yes. Yeah. I won't mention the pastor because he's got his own issues, but he's a wonderful preacher. But we went to a church when we spent 9 months in the Phoenix area trying to establish remote work so we could get back to doing some travel. He had a very impactful statement that describes a lot of the reality of the war that we're at against not flesh and blood, but principalities, about the powers that are in the unseen world. And there's a lot more than just angels and demons. You've got all kinds of created creatures that we don't see and we don't have really a grasp on. But he loved to say, God creates and Satan counterfeits. And that explains so much of what we're seeing here. Speaking of memes earlier, there was a meme talking about and rightfully mocking the phrase, love is love. Because, well, yeah, you just defined a word using the word. So, of course, it means exactly what you wanted to say, right? But yeah, love is love. That has been awesome.
Oh, amazing. There's another hour.
Oh my gosh.
So we need to save that for next week.
Bare minimum. But I loved this meme because it said, in one panel, it said, love is love. And then the next panel, it said, water is water. And it had a big straw going into a toilet. And I was like, yes.
Okay.
Dirty water is still water.
It's still water.
But you don't want to drink it. And this thing that you're calling love, which is better defined as lust and many other words that probably wouldn't be friendly on a podcast. You might want to call love. I mean, people say I love a hot dog and I love my wife and I love my pets, whatever. I love my children, but those words have different meanings in different contexts.
Right.
But, oh my gosh. Yeah. We cannot let the media at large, we cannot let the left craft this image of what a father ought to be. The image of a father is Father God. We as men give a very poor example, but God created, and Satan will try to counterfeit that in all the ways, in the Al Bundys, in the Homer Simpsons, in all of these sitcoms where the dad is just an nincompoop.
In the Ted Bundys.
I don't know if he was a father. I don't think
Ted was not a good father.
If he was, he wasn't a good one.
But we can't allow the narrative to be hijacked, to be counterfeited by anyone who is not willing to admit who God is and what he has done for us through his son.
Yeah. And how we reclaim the culture is a topic for another day. We'll have to wrap it. We're an hour and a half in, and we have just barely scratched. Yeah, we've barely.
We're just getting to the edge of what we can talk about now.
Just warming up. I mean, I am out of stuff, so I don't have enough juice to go on. We thank you guys so much for taking the time to be here. William, it was great that you finally got a chance to be a part of this, and thank you for kind of jogging me and make use of your mailing list, dude. I mean, not everybody's on Facebook. And Dan, always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Every time we do this, it's always a pleasure. And Ed, even though we don't get to see you, I'm glad you joined us.
Oh, fantastic!
It's always a pleasure.
Excellent.
Hey,
excellent.
Glad to have you here as always. So next month we're going to do our July giveaway like we did last year. And I'm going to get the daughter in here with the ammo can full of 22 TCM shells numbered, and we're gonna give away a bunch of prizes. So that is the plan for the July online hangout. Hopefully,
yeehaw.
And I know being Father's Day weekend, this was not the best weekend to try to put this all together and with a week's notice. But next month, it won't be the weekend of July 4th either. So it'll be we'll do it later in the month when it's more convenient. Hopefully everybody can, or more folks can join us and can watch all the fun giveaways. So thank you all for being here. Thanks so much for your support. As always, I really do appreciate it. And God bless you both. And God bless you, Ed. Thank you for being here again. And we will talk to you again next month.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.